As we get settled in for worship this morning, I just want to share a brief announcement that the Social Responsibility Committee asked me to let you know that they are looking for help at Sojourner House. So if you are interested in helping out on the first Friday in October, stay tuned for the UU Connections. And if you are know someone who is not on UU Connections, or if by chance you're watching on Facebook and don't get UU Connections, you can contact our office at uuoffice@uueauclair.com and get those notices. Thanks so much. We'll be starting service at 10 a.m. Good morning, everybody. It is great to be with you this morning. I'm the Reverend Julianne Lepp, and it is my pleasure to join you in our service. And we are offering online services through May 2021. And we've been doing this on Facebook. And now for a few Sundays, we're also working out Zoom worship. And thank you so much for helping us figure all of that out. It's a joy to be with you as we enter today. Our opening words this morning are from Erica Hewitt. in the words, or as we enter into worship, put away the pressures of the world. Put away the pressures that ask us to perform, to take up masks, to put on brave fronts. Silence the voices that ask you to be perfect. This is a community of compassion and welcoming. This is a place where you don't have to be anything or do anything to earn the love that is contained within this community. You do not have to be braver, smarter, stronger, or better than you are in this moment. You do not have to be more than only the gift of your body, no matter how able. Your seeking mind, no matter how heavy. Your animal heart, no matter how broken. Bring all that you are and all that you love into this hour together. I hope you'll enjoy the music for gathering this morning and an original song by Ken Adler, sung by Laura Gatz. Welcome.
I folded her clothes, I loaded the car. I knew that the drive to the Goodwill store wouldn't be very far. I sat in her chair, I stared at her bed. I remembered the times and the words that I wish that we both had said. They say that she's gone, there's nothing to do. I ought to accept that a part of my life is through. But somewhere inside I hear her again, reminding me of the truth she showed again and again. We're in this together. Your pain is not your own, though we may not touch each other. You are not alone. And when the song is over, and when our time has come, we'll reach for one another, and we will be home. And now you sit in your room, and you stare at your wall. Compared to the world, you think your problems seem very small. You're missing your job, your cousin is ill, your money is low, and the mail just brings you too many bills. You're eating alone, there's little to say. You used to accomplish a whole lot more in a day. But I'm over here, I feel just like you. Just give me a call and we can help each other get through. We're in this together. Your pain is not your own, though we may not touch each other. You are not alone. And when this all is over, and when your time has come,
Here I am, excited to be inside the UUC to make an announcement on behalf of the Endowment Committee. I am standing in front of the wooden plaque right here. This wooden plaque was part of a desk that Brian Larson used to have when he was a little boy. And he was giving it to the UUC thrift sale, and the endowment committee purchased it and took it apart and took the top off and made it into this plaque. And on this plaque, you see names. These people are members of what we call, the founders of the endowment committee called the Henry Doty Maxson Society. Called the Henry Doty Maxson Society in honor of Henry Doty Maxson, who was the first Unitarian minister in Eau Claire in 1889. The names on this plaque are people, members who have made a declaration of intent to include some percentage of their estate to the UUC. There are also other ways to contribute to the endowment fund. The members of the endowment fund, David Rice, Lauren Otto, and me, we all would be very happy to explain to you how it's possible for you to join the Henry Doty Maxson Society or to become involved in the endowment in some other way. You can add your name to the tree, and we will do our best to help you in the process and in other ways. The endowment fund is designed to help us in the future for our congregation. Watch for our additional news and check on the UUC website for information. And for now, this is Tim Hirsch reporting by videotape from the UUC.
Hi, I'm Nate Otto. I'm VP of the congregation this year. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all who treasure freedom of conscience and the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you will follow our UUC Facebook page and stay tuned for events such as Wonderful Wednesdays and the Sunday morning meditation. There are religious exploration classes for adults and small groups for support and interests like book club. Also, families can follow there are religious exploration classes for the 4K through 9th grade and youth group every Wednesday online for middle school and high school students. We are glad you joined us today.
And now Tim and Karen will be joining us for the chalice lighting.
Our words for lighting the chalice are by Alice Anacheka Naismith. In a time of uncertainty, when everything around us is changing constantly, each day new developments, rising numbers, changing guidelines, when the world we live in suddenly seems upside down and topsy-turvy. You should have it.
We light our chalice to remind ourselves of our grounding in our faith. We remember that the flaming chalice came into being as a beacon of hope during World War II, a secret symbol that offered help. In the midst of it all, we wrap ourselves in the warm light of a familiar flame, a reminder of the strength that emerges when we come together in community.
This reading is by J.E. Abernathy, Jr. Let us seek the quiet and the calm. Let us lay aside our loud calling. Let us lay aside our struggle. Speak softly. Let us listen to the melodies that recall other proportions. Our moments tarry not with us. Let them seek the dimension that endures beyond all nowness and here-ness, beyond all requirements and all particularity. Let us speak softly that we may hear. Let us enter into the quiet.
By Erica Hewitt. We who are Unitarian Universalist not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one here is a stranger to pain, or to the knowledge that things break or break down, promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. Brokenness happens. We're inherently or intimately acquainted with brokenness. Then, even as we believe that no matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. As UUs, we believe that paying attention to something is an act of love. Witnessing and naming brokenness is how we begin to heal it. Some sorrows demand to be named out loud. My sister died. My body is fragile. I'm scared that I won't be able to pay my rent this month. The streets in my city are filled with violence. Healing begins when we examine what's in pain and wonder how it occurred and allow it to teach us. In fact, sometimes the brokenness is immense, and the only grasp, the only power we have over that large and complicated pain looming over us is to bear witness, to tell its story, and to seek out companions and helpers who are willing to agree that yes, there is something breaking or messy in front of us, and we will not leave or even look away until repair has begun. If love begins with attention, repair takes the form of compassion, bearing witness, speaking out. Repair looks like connection, justice, or even revolution. It looks like after-school tutoring programs, community meals, and holding signs in front of City Hall. And it begins by placing full trust and faith that there is inherent wholeness in every broken situation.
Hi, friends. I am the Reverend Julianne Lepp bringing you our sermon today. And it has been a tough time lately. I know it is a time when many of us would maybe prefer to crawl into our beds or to be held in some way. And it's hard to be away from our loved ones right now. I know for myself, I think about how do we care for ourselves when our hearts, bodies, and minds want to rise up and right wrongs, change the world now more than ever, when there seems to be so much at stake. We cannot expect ourselves to pour out constantly and not feel burnt out. I'd like to perhaps suggest that we consider thinking in terms of spiritual activism or contemplative activism. If we're rooted in practices that renew our spirit and center our actions on our values and beliefs, if we're rooted in things that refill our well, then we are more likely to make it day to day. An article in Sojourners reflected on this in 2017. Traditionally, contemplative spirituality is built on a foundation of stillness, silence, and solitude. For some, this means a commitment to exercises like centering prayer, the daily examen, and meditations. Others describe more physical practices like yoga, exercise, and dancing. While these practices are necessary for formation, I think about that we also want to take time to renew our spirit in ways that involve others. And it's hard to do when we're distanced and when we can't be together physically. Mickey Scott Bay Jones, Director of Healing Justice Initiatives at Faith Matters Network, says there is more to activism than organizing, running successful campaigns. She says not being rooted in something that allows for spiritual, emotional, and physical evaluations and check-ins will lead to a shallow and exhausting activism that likely isn't sustainable in a healthy way. And some of you might think, well, I'm not an activist, but perhaps this definition might help you. What is an activist? According to Alistair Govan, author of Spiritual Activism, leadership as a service. An activist is one who wants to bring changes to the way our relationships are structured. That is, change in community, often taking to the point of discomfort. Don Heider Camara, a Brazilian archbishop, said, "When I give food to the poor, they call me a saint. Yet when I ask why the poor have no food, they call me a communist." So that's pretty interesting, you know, when we think about that. And I like to think that when I go out in the community and say Black Lives Matter, that I'm just stating the obvious. But for some, that makes me something that is questionable and something that is hard. So I wonder if the way that we look at how we do things can be interesting. So when I think about leading with love has to start with self-love. Society has a lot of stories that it tries to tell us about who we are and who we should be. When I was told that women should smile and please their men, and I was told that, this caused me harm. When I was told that girls aren't ministers and that they shouldn't speak loud and disagree, this caused harm. So I was the lone hand in my South Carolina 5th grade class raising my hand against the death penalty. I stuck out like a sore thumb with my unapologetic Greenpeace shirts, and speaking out was discouraged. It just wasn't good manners. And there are a lot of unkind words ascribed to women who are angry and women who want to claim their power. Some are called nasty women. To be a nasty woman in recent years became a rallying cry for those tired of being objectified or underestimated and putting us into limiting categories and roles. You can be strong and loud, firm and opinionated, and still lead with love. Speaking out doesn't make you nasty or angry. It just means that you have something to say, right? I know that that when I speak out, sometimes I wonder, am I being too loud? Am I taking up too much space? And then I have to remind myself, wait a minute, I deserve to take up space. You deserve to take up space. And it doesn't mean that we can't do so in love. It means that we have something to say. You can be strong, firm, and opinionated and still listen and pause and make space for other leaders. Speaking out does not make you nasty or angry. It means that there is something to speak out about. Yet in these times, there's so many things to speak out about. And think about, how do we care for our spirits? You know, championing the causes and people that we believe in. This past Thursday, I had had enough. It was probably the first time in weeks or months that I had truly grieved, you know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when I thought about all that we lost with her legacy, and all that she left behind is a great joy, but it felt like a big loss. And then the news just weighed on me heavily. And I crawled into my bed for 3 hours and I cried. And I put my comforter over my head and I cried. And you know what? That's okay. It is okay to crawl into your bed and take care of yourself, because we can't be strong all of the time. And we need time to understand that this pandemic, this time that we live in, where people are very activated and concerned about politics and racism, it's hard. There's so much in the news. And Unitarian Universalists and people I know in this Chippewa Valley community and beyond, we care. We care about what happens. And when you care, our spirits get tired. So self-care can be walks, watching a movie. I watched, I can't remember the name of it. It was a take on Sherlock Holmes, Eudonia Holmes, or I can't remember. Anyway, it's on Netflix. It was great. Or reading really bad novels. I feel really guilty when I read silly novels because I'm a Unitarian and I should be smart and read all these. But you know what? Reading ridiculous novels is actually really good self-care, for me anyway. So how do you practice self-care? It can be counseling, the support of friends, your minister, but it also starts with the stories that we tell about ourselves. Who has the power to tell us what is true? It is a question we have asked during all of our Unitarian Universalist history. Every time Tim Hirsch helps with the class on new member class, it's who has the power to tell us what is true? And it's something that we should ask about ourselves. The stories that we inhabit and the trauma that we recover from affect our ability to be spiritually whole. According to UNICEF, around 1 in 10, and that's 120 million girls worldwide, have experienced sexual violence at some point in their lives. And that's hard to hear. I think of the writer Maya Angelou, who rose beyond violence and racism and hardship, and she endured to become one of the most amazing African American writers. And she inspired many with her words and witness. She came from a world where children were seen and not heard, and maybe that was the generation you grew up in or the household you grew up in. I know that I encountered that with my grandparents. Sometimes you would not speak at the table unless you were spoken to. And women only had the power that they could gather for themselves. I know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg made it possible for women when they were divorced to be able to get a credit card. I mean, divorced women could not even get their own credit card. So Maya was so traumatized by her circumstances that she didn't speak to anyone but her brother for several years. She wrote, "If you have a person enslaved, the first thing you must do is convince yourself that the person is subhuman. The second thing you have to convince yourself is that your allies have some help. And the third is probably the unkindest cut of all, that you convince that person that he or she is subhuman and deserves it." And that's what I want to definitely fight against. I want to know that everyone has inherent worth and dignity. And she wrote, "You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise." We can write our stories in different ways in spite of our traumas. Maya Angelou was born as Marguerite Ann Johnson, and to say that she had a difficult childhood is barely to touch the challenges that she overcame in her early years. So we think about the stories that we have. We all come from different walks of life and different things. But when we look at Maya Angelou, and when you read her memoir, "When a Caged Bird Sings," you get a sense of how much she internalized her environment. And she was a poet from the earliest years of her life with an empathetic impressions. There was one time she was in church with her brother and the preacher was being chased around by this religiously inspired woman in service. The woman accosts the preacher in her spiritual fervor, and her teeth, the minister's teeth fell out of his mouth. And Maya could not help but just laugh and laugh and laugh. And she kept laughing, knowing that she was going to get a whooping. And she writes about this. She said it was worth it because it was funny. And she had a deep dislike of that preacher, and he would come to dinner and eat the best chicken and always looking for handouts. And so she writes about these impressions that she had, even despite the trauma. She recalled in her memoir that as a child she thought she knew God was white, but somehow she couldn't view God as a racist. The example of her grandmother's faith and love is so much different than the God that she heard about in church, like the God of damnation and you're going to go to hell. But her grandmother gave examples of love. And one example was when her grandmother responded to 3 white girls that mocked her praying and singing by the grandmother respectfully addressed them as Mrs. And Maya remembers being angry that her grandmother had to be respectful to these little girls, but she understood that her grandmother was leading with love. And these are words from her poem. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. So what is it that makes us rise? Compassion. Compassion matters, period. Black lives matter, period. You have inherent worth and dignity and deserve to be treated as such. You deserve to inhabit your beautiful story. Maya Angelou wrote, leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that was wonderfully clear, I rise. We all do better when we all do better. Do you feel it? We rise. We rise. We rise. Thank you. Amen. And now is the time where we are going to move into our joys and concerns. You may share your joys and concerns in the chat, and I will share them aloud in this circle of community and care. We will have some music for meditation by Linda Luttrell as you share your joys and concerns in the chat. Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for sharing that with us. It is beautiful to be here with you on this Sunday and to share in your joys and concerns. If you have any joys or concerns, you can share them in the chat and we will share those aloud. Bob Jankowski has shared that it is the 90th birthday for his dad. Happy birthday to Bob's dad. And Linda shares that she is grateful for those who choose organ donation as a loving patient and family did this morning. Oh, that is beautiful. And Jennifer says, happy 21st birthday to my daughter, Stephanie. Yes, celebrating those milestones right now is so very important. Happy birthday, Stephanie. Marcia Jacobs shares that her daughter-in-law lost a cousin this past week. The only sibling is now alone, losing her father and her mother in the past 2 years. They were like sister and brother to her. I'm very sorry to hear that. And from David Hirsch, he says that Tim returns to Gustafus today. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Gustafus Adolphus. Hoping that it goes well. And my heart goes out to all of those who are in schools and who are serving in places that they see the effects that this pandemic has on friends and loved ones and those that they serve. I especially light a candle for all those things that are too tender to escape the folds of our hearts. One last candle, gratitude from Linda Rogers, gratitude that medication stopped Will's pneumonia and he is recovering again. That's wonderful, Linda. Very good news. And it's a joy to see all of your faces this morning, and in the midst of when we're figuring out technology, thank you for being patient with us and mindful that we are doing so many things just to be together. I'm going to read the words to close our time of joys and concerns. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now we're going to be moving into a beautiful hymn with Julia Brown and David Hirsch. Thank you.
For all that is our life, we sing out thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use, to build the common good, and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing out thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use, to build the common good, and make our own days glad.
Thank you, everyone, for all the music contributions that we have been getting during this pandemic. Now is the time for our giving. With gratitude for the abundance in our lives, we give to help people in need and support the work of this congregation. The 50/50 Share the Plate recipient for September is the community table. You can donate online or text to give at 84321. Checks can be mailed to 421 South Farwell Street in Eau Claire. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. We will be sharing our music in just a moment here. And our music this morning for giving is Spirit Dance by Lisa Lynn and Julia Brown. Julia Brown got permission from Lisa Lynn after listening to the CD to do this music. Thank you so much for all of those who have joined us. And now we are going to move to the chalice extinguishing.
If you know the words, say them along with us in your homes. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. By Elizabeth Zell Jones. Thank you for joining us today. Our closing words are from Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion, which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Amen and blessed be.